Welcome to another Fishbat battle report. 1000 points, Kings of War, and this time we have Abyssal Dwarfs versus the Dwarfs. Yes, stunties versus evil stunties, and I am in control of the evil stunties. And I've been waiting to get them on the table for quite a while. Not too many folks interested in 1000 point games, and that's all I've got painted for my Abyssal Dwarfs. But I got a game, and here we go. So, notations, this is what I use to explain what's going on in the slides. Pause if you need to have a look. Alright, and this is the army that I brought. So over on the left, the Abyssal Half-Breed Champion. By the way, every unit on the table, my army and my opponent's, has no magic items. Up the back there's a Grog Mortar, and on the right-hand side of Grog Mortar, the Chaos Dwarfs have a fair range of artillery, and the Grog Mortar is sort of that medium cost option, medium effectiveness as well. In the middle, very conspicuous, the Lesser Obsidian Golem Horde. Just a big, tough defense 6, high nerve, no wavering, smashy bashy unit. Good stuff. Iron Caster behind him has heal 3 so that the golems can get healed, which, you know, healing defense 6 things is just really nice. No surge on the Iron Caster though, which if I had more points, that's what I'd be going straight for. Decimator Regiment, because Breath Attack 12, Piercing 1 is nice, and I have the models and I like them. Great Obsidian Golem because defense 6 high nerve. Very good. And that's this. There's no real rhyme or reason to the list building other than I had these painted. The astute among you may observe that I have too many heroes and war machines for the number of hordes and regiments I have, but my opponent, being very gracious, has let me have an extra war machine just so that I can fill out the points. And this is my opponent's army, the Dwarfs. On his left flank, there's these pictures of the deployments as well. We have a Brock Rider troop, the Dwarven Brock Riders being some quite good cavalry actually, lots of attacks, very quick, and it's fantastic to see Dwarfs with a fast attack option, really changes the game for them. Moving right, we've got an Iron Guard regiment, two-handed weapons, and a throwing mastiff. And of course that base is decorated with just a gorgeous Dwarven statue with all the snow settled upon it, really nice. Beside it, another Iron Guard regiment with the two-handed weapons, of course given the crushing 1 but lowering defense to 5. We have the Flame Belcher up the back there. Brilliant little war machine for the Dwarfs, gives them a lot of flexibility, of course because it can pivot and fire as it pleases, which gives it a very nice little zone of control because it spits out quite a lot of attacks with that reliable breath weapon that ignores cover. The Organ Gun beside it, which produces a very nice 2-foot range. Of course, I've said this before, but I like war machines which have a high number of dice and lower piercing, rather than having one attack that does massive damage because it's so unreliable. Army Standard Bearer inspires things, pretty simple. Ranger Regiment shoots things, pretty simple. And a Brock Rider troop on the flank that is going to be fast and a bit of a problem for small squishy units. So we roll off for turns, and Dwarves get the first turn. I don't know if I mentioned before, but this is an invade scenario. So a general advance we see here on the right flank. Brock Riders move up and pivot. The Rangers have a Vanguard move, so they move up into the difficult terrain. Rangers, of course, having the Pathfinder special rule, and they're going to be able to sit prettily there and shoot things. Interestingly, the Organ Gun also moves up. I think my opponent saw how much shooting I had and figured that I'd be castling, or not coming to meet him, which is what I did actually, so it was a good move to advance his Organ Gun so he could be in range. And just a general advance from the... I wanted to call them shield breakers, but that's not correct. These are Iron Guard and the Flame Belcher. The Rangers decide they want to give shooting a try, but they miss. Well, I shouldn't say they miss, but they fail to damage any of the Obsidian Golems. So, Abyssal Dwarfs, turn 1. I grab my, half-breed champion, and he runs right up the right side of the board, and I get him in a position where he cannot be seen by that Brock Rider troop, and my intention is that next turn he is going to charge them and be a jolly nuisance. I very slowly advance with my golems and my decimators, not just because they're slow units, because I'm not using their entire movement allowance, so that I can I don't want to rush forward too fast. I'm pretty happy with how much shooting I've got. I'd like him to come to me, and for me to be able to set up the combats as I choose. So I'm trying to jostle for position a little bit here. In my own shooting, the first Grog Mortar shoots at the Rangers and misses, and the other one shoots at the Brock Rider troop and gets 7 points of damage. Which, yeah, first turn, 7 points of damage on a unit like that, that is quite nice indeed. I'll take that any day of the week. So, Dwarfs turn 2. A general advance from the Dwarfs here, the Brock Riders moving up each flank, looking to exploit any flanks that may open up in the future. Iron Guard moving up as well, as fast as their little legs can carry them, with the Flame Vulture close behind. The ranged units this time are not going to move because they're wanting to unload onto my golems. The Rangers have a go at shooting the Half-Breed Champion, but they all fail to do damage. They are, so far, 2 turns of shooting, and they've done nothing. I was pretty happy with that. My opponent, not so much. Then the Organ Gun decides to open up, and manages to pull off 3 damage onto the lesser Obsidian Golems. So, Abyssal Dwarfs, turn 2. The important turn. The Grog Mortar fires at the Ranger Regiment, does 5 points of damage, and actually manages to waver them, which is pretty nice. Abyssal Half-Breed Champion charges into the rear of the Brock Rider, not that it matters because it's individual. 4 points of damage, total of 11. So I only needed 5 to rout them because I've got a nerve of 16, but I think I rolled a 4, and they're unwavering, so it doesn't matter much. But still, 11 damage, that's pretty good. I heal my Obsidian Golems for all 3 of the damage they had, so now they're back up and healthy again. My other Grog Mortar fires at the Berserker troops and misses. I move up very hesitantly with the rest of the army. I've got the Obsidian Golem up there. I've moved him there so he can bait a charge from the Brock Rider troop, and hopefully I can then punish that with my Decimators or my other Obsidian Golems, because he's still out of range of those Iron Guard. This is the theory anyway, but I've made a subtle but critical mistake in this, which will be apparent later. So this is the board state at the end of Abyssal Dwarfs turn 2. So, Dwarfs turn 3. And the mistake is this. I had it pivoted ever so slightly so that those Brock Riders had a charge into my flank and get double damage. Bugger. Well, they did 5 damage, and I'm not too happy about this, but it's on him now. He's got a nice high nerve, so he still survives this. I think he's got a nerve value of 17 or 18 and doesn't waver. So he'll survive this, definitely. But I'm not going to be able to punish that like I thought I would. If I had positioned it well, this would have been a flank that had gone quite well, I would have thought. Just because of how hard it would have been to take an Obsidian Golem from the front. The other troop of Brock Riders turns around and charges the Half-Breed Champion. Only do 2 points of damage, but on the nerve check they roll double 6s and manage to waver him, which was pretty unlucky, 1 in 36 chance. But, as we'll see later, this will become a trend. The shooting for the Dwarfs goes quite well. The combined Organ Gun and Ranger Regiment fire at the Obsidian Golems and get 6 points of damage. Why are the Rangers shooting? They get wavered, didn't they? Well, yes, but they rolled headstrong. So, Abyssal Dwarfs turn 3. So, my Great Obsidian Golem, which was in a terrible spot being charged in the flank, decides to charge straight forward, and in this spot it is out of the line of sight of those Brock Riders, which is a good thing. It also does 5 points of damage, which is another good thing. Doesn't break them, the Iron Guard still hold, but it's a better position. And as a matter of fact, when it charged, it was out of line of sight of the neighbouring unit as well, which was also quite nice. So this is a better position for him to be in. Or so it would seem. Not pictured, the Iron Caster takes 2 damage off of the Obsidian Golems, so they have 4 damage remaining. Both of the Mortars miss, and the Half-Breed Champion holds and regenerates both of the damage that it's taken so far. And the other thing that happens is that I use my Breath Attack onto the Brock Rider troop and do 4 points of damage, which they hold on. Dwarfs turn 4. So, the Greater Obsidian Golem has more trouble. Turns out that while I was in combat, he was out of line of sight for the neighbouring regiment, But after combat, he has to move an inch backwards, and they can just see the back of him. So they get a flank charge. And it's not good. 10 damage between the two units is a total of 15, and he routs. Yep, he's out of there. The Flame Belcher also continues making its very slow, yet dangerous advance in the back there. And that's how both of the units face after defeating the Golem. Brock Riders can decide they want to continue bashing up my poor old half-breed champion. 3 points of damage, and they waver him a second time. In a row. Anyway. The Flame Belcher, the Organ Gun, and the Rangers all combining their fire onto my Lesser Obsidian Golems. They take 6 points of damage, up to a total of 10. This is now in the danger zone because they've got a break limit of 17, but they do manage to hold. The Brock Rider troop predictably charges into my Decimated Regiment, do 6 points of damage, but they hold. Abyssal Dwarfs turn 4. Grog Mortar, trusty old Grog Mortar, fires onto that Brock Rider troop that was harassing my champion. 7 points of damage, so they're now at a total of 18, and they've got a nerve of 16, and so they rout, very happily. I countercharge into the other Brock Rider regiment, Decimators in the front and Obsidian Golems in the flank. And Obsidian Golems in the flank is not a happy situation to have. That's 36 attacks hitting on 4s with crushing 2. Yeah, it's a lot of pain. That unit was just evaporated. Otherwise, I healed 1 point of damage off those Obsidian Golems. They've got 9 damage left. My champion regenerates 1 point of damage, and that's the board state at the end of turn 4. Dwarfs, turn 5. So remember how one of those units had a throwing Mastiff? Well, they threw the Mastiff at the Decimators, who were within a foot. They took 4 points of damage from it, which put them up to 10, and routed them. I think Mastiffs are a pretty good unit. I don't hear much about them in discussion very often, but 10 points for Dwarfs, 15 for Abyssal Dwarfs, and they very often can make a big difference. You know, they between the 12-inch range and the 4-inch walk you have, you're able to throw that at heavy cavalry that are staying at range, or you have the ability to reach out and touch and rout units that are just out of your charge range as well, like in this case. Quite good little additions, in my opinion. What else happens? We have the Obsidian Golems. They get charged by a single unit of Iron Guard, take 4 damage. They're now at a total of 13. They only need a 4 to break, but opponent rolls double ones, and they hold, which is quite lucky for me. Flame Belcher Cannon belches flame onto my champion. 2 points of damage. He's at a total of 4. My opponent needs 10 to waver him. And he wavers him again. I'll point out at this point that this has been 3 waivers in a row? Or is it 4? Anyway, in every single case, my opponent has rolled exactly the waiver value, 12. And needed high rolls each time. So that's a bit of luck for him there, because that champion could have gone and created a fair bit of havoc if he'd been allowed to. Turn 5, Abyssal Dwarfs. I countercharge with my Lesser Obsidian Golems into the Iron Guard regiment. I make a little mistake. I thought that the Lesser Obsidian Golems had Crushing 3. They only have Crushing 2. Crushing 3 is what the Greater Obsidian Golem has. I do 10 points of damage, and I probably wouldn't have gotten that much damage if I had played it correctly. So it would have been, 1 to 3 on average, sort of lower. But I made the mistake still. I waver the unit, and they do headstrong it later, but waver with that nerve roll. I heal 1 point of damage off of the Obsidian Golems with the Iron Caster, so they're down to 12 damage. Not pictured, the Grog Mortars both miss. The half-breed champion holds and regenerates a single point of damage once again. Dwarfs turn 6, getting to the pointy end of the game. So, a big multi-charge, 3 units. Both of the Iron Guard regiments and the Ranger regiment all charge into the Obsidian Golems, do a ton of damage, and those Obsidian Golems are most definitely routed. Flame Belcher rolls up, belches flame, 4 points of damage, quite a lot, so there's a total of 7. He needs a 7 twice to rout my champion, and he gets it. So the champion's now routed as well. Very disappointing. And then the photo here is actually the position that those 3 regiments have taken up in the wake of killing the Obsidian Golem after their follow-up moves after the charge. So, Abyssal Dwarfs turn 6, possibly the last of the game. I decide that I need to try and get his units as reduced as possible so that I reduce his scoring for the scenario conditions. I figure that if I can get both of the regiments, the Ranger Regiment and the Iron Guard Regiment off the table, he'll have less than the 20% requirement to score. So the left Grog Mortar fires, misses. The right one fires, hits 6 damage for a total of 16, routs. Magnificent. Then the Ironcaster throws a fireball, does a single point of damage, total of 6 on the Rangers, but not enough to shift them. They do manage to hold quite comfortably, and so that is it. So that was that. The Abyssal Dwarfs, through the entire course of the game, only actually put 1 unit into enemy territory, the champion, and he didn't survive. The Dwarfs, however, they came forward, they invaded, and I calculated the points of 365 at the end. Half points for the Army Standard Bearer, because we were using the rules for a tournament pack for an upcoming tournament where individuals were half points for scoring. Still, that was definitely a solid margin, so it is a loss for the Abyssal Dwarfs, and congratulations to my dwarf opponent. So, today's lesson. Flanks. Don't expose your flanks. My Obsidian Golem, the greater one, it should have done its job, but I had it very slightly pivoted the wrong way, and I suffered for it. Just a stupid thing to not check. Would have been quite a different game if that had been different, I think. Nothing else to say. Don't expose your flanks. Bad. Wrong. Don't do it. So, thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed the report. Nice, quick little one. And I'm just going to slowly go through the other slides now, just so you can have a look at the very pretty units my opponent has painted up here. Thanks for watching. Bye.